everyone? My name is Seth, and today I have a little rant about one of the statements made by one of the co-CEOs of Netflix. So when I first saw this statement, I absolutely knew I was going to have to make a video on it. I just immediately saw it. And I was like, no, that's not right. He's wrong. So I completely disagree with him. And I believe that the numbers also disagree with him. But it's been a while since I've had a rant video. I think maybe the last one I did was on the theater etiquette. And I'm still getting comments on that. So if you haven't seen that video, go back and watch that. Unfortunately, it's still very relevant. But in this video, I'm going to be addressing what one of the co-CEOs of Netflix, Ted Sarandos, has said relatively recently. But before I go any farther, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. We're getting closer and closer to 200 subscribers. Last I saw, we were only about 8 away, so go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It would absolutely make my day. So one day, I was just scrolling in Instagram. You can follow me on social media pretty much anywhere at Cinema Seth. But I was scrolling through Instagram, and I saw from Comic Book that the co-CEO of Netflix, Ted Sarandos, has said that he thinks Barbie and Oppenheimer would be just as big with a streaming release. And, you know, the two films combined to make over $2 billion at the box office last year. That's billion with a B. But he believes that if Barbie and if Oppenheimer would have just straight up released on Netflix, then they would be just as big. But he's wrong. I think the numbers back me up on this. I think he's very wrong on that, and I'm going to tell you why. But continuing on with one of his statements, he went on to say, there is no reason to believe that the movie itself is better in any size of screen for all people. He also added, my son's an editor. He watched Lawrence of Arabia on his phone. I don't know what his son being an editor and watching Lawrence of Arabia on his phone has anything to do with anything. I mean, I'm an editor and I watch Furiosa on the biggest screen I possibly could. I think, first of all, Netflix does have an issue with just their films as a whole. Netflix's whole thing has been really quantity over quality. They pump out so many original movies, and you pretty much never hear of any of them, mostly because they're either very bad, very forgettable, and then also you add this other aspect of it to where they don't market their own movies. There was a new movie, I think it was called Atlas, coming out with Simu Liu, and I had not heard of it until like the day before it came out. You'll go back and look at some of these other films that they have made exclusively for Netflix, like The Gray Man or Red Notice. Most people probably never heard of it before it came out. You might have seen an ad for it when you were on the Netflix app, but there really wasn't a big marketing push. And I would argue that the average movie fan had no idea what was coming out until they opened Netflix and like, oh, there's a new movie out. Maybe I'll give it a watch. I don't know. I think that's a dumb strategy just to begin with, because having a movie like that is incredibly difficult to make money on. You don't get any kind of a cut from any kind of theatrical run. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of address his statement on thinking that Barbie and Oppenheimer would be as big if it just went straight to Netflix. I think the numbers back us up. We don't have a ton of numbers, because back when streaming first started, pretty much none of the streamers released a lot of information about views or things like that. It's only been over the past couple of years, but judging on kind of people's thoughts online and then seeing these kind of studies, I think the numbers absolutely back me up. I have a chart here. This is the chart talking about all films released in 2022, and this is the average viewership in the first 4 weeks. This is in hours viewed in millions from Nielsen. So you take a look at this over here on the left. You have that gray bar there. That's the first run that is straight to streaming. And then over here in the light green and darker green, you have the theatrical released films. And what do you know? The theatrical released films had a very significant jump in views on the streaming services. Shout out, by the way, to the Entertainment Strategy Guy. And I'll try to do a little bit of research. I saw these were some of his charts that he was able to put together. And so some of this information is coming from him. So shout out to him. But I think you just look on kind of the trending films on streaming. You even look at some of the most popular films on Netflix. Something like Madam Web. Even though Madam Web was an absolutely terrible film, it had a theatrical release. And when it came out on Netflix, it was the #1 movie on Netflix. I guarantee you, if they had this movie with the trailers, the marketing it had, and just thrown it on Netflix, it absolutely would not be #1 on Netflix. One thing that kind of adds to the conversation is talking about the theatrical window. That does kind of matter a little bit. I would say that's maybe a discussion for a different day, but you even look at something like Glass Onion, which Netflix kind of experimented with, gave it a super limited theatrical run, and it did so much better on Netflix when it actually came out. So even giving a film a smaller theatrical window is better than not at all. And overall, it's just a fact that the theatrical films that then move on to streaming services perform much better. And I believe it helps your company as a whole. Let's say, for example, Netflix were to take The Gray Man and they were to give it a theatrical run, even if it was 2 weeks, which is criminally short, especially with a movie like Fall Guy. But regardless, even if you have your movie in there, say it's The Gray Man, for like 2 weeks, you're still getting some money coming in from the theatrical box office, and you're not having that kind of influx of money come in when you just release it straight on streaming. The Gray Man, if it wasn't 200 million, it was almost 200 million. That's an incredibly expensive film, and I guarantee you they lost money on it, because the way that would make them money is if there would be more signups to Netflix. And I guarantee you, Netflix having The Gray Man go straight on there, straight to streaming, that did not make their money back. They did not get $200 million worth of people coming to Netflix signing up for the first time. Here's another graph that I have. This is from Wikipedia. It is the top 25 films by Wikipedia page views in 2022. The theatrical bars are green, streaming is red, and yellow was Glass Onion, which was kind of a special case. And so you see here, the biggest, the most popular films all had a theatrical release. You have to go all the way down there to The Gray Man in order to find your first true straight-to-streaming film. And out of the top 25, only 5 are streaming, and only 1 barely makes it into the top 10, and that is the sequel to Knives Out, which is Glass Onion, which in some locations it still had a very small theatrical release window, and it's a sequel of a film that was just theatrical to begin with. This next bit is coming from Variety, and this says that people were more likely to stream a movie when they knew it had been released in theaters. That was according to a survey by Ernst & Young that was commissioned by the National Association of Theater Owners. Of course, with the National Association of Theater Owners kind of being behind this, they want people to still come to theaters. Even though that study was funded by theater owners, I think the information gleaned from that is still very important. 62% of the study's respondents reported that if a movie had appeared in cinemas, they were more willing to check it out on their streaming services. Only 3% of respondents said they were less likely to stream a movie if they knew it had been released in a movie theater. So just going by that, it's absolutely going to do you no harm to release your movie in theaters. There's literally only upside. Having a theatrical release can help increase the conversation around the film. It has this theatrical release, then it goes away for a little bit, And then when it comes out on streaming, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that movie. I want to watch that again. Or, oh, I missed it when it was in the theaters. Let me make sure I get it now. Here's another interesting thing with this study. I believe this shows that the streaming services are not cannibalizing the theater industry. They're complementary to it. People who visit a movie theater 9 times or more annually streamed more content than respondents who visited a movie theater only once or twice. Respondents with more than 9 trips to the movies saw an average of 12 hours of streaming content per week, compared to the 7 hours of respondents who only saw 1 or 2 movies a year watched on average. Of those who didn't visit a movie theater in the last 12 months, nearly half did not stream any online content. So you can go out, you can do some of the research for yourself, but just from my thoughts, how I see things, and also with some of the numbers that I saw, having a movie in theaters absolutely will increase its performance on streaming, and movies that go straight to streaming generally don't perform as well as theatrical releases. So I know Netflix is going to do whatever they want to do, but I think it would be very beneficial to the platform as a whole to put some of their movies out in theaters. I want the newest Benoit Blanc mystery, Wake Up Dead Man. I want that in theaters so bad, and I probably think that they're not going to have any kind of theatrical release, even though they did for Glass Onion. I think they should probably slow down a little bit, not have a million original films thrown straight on streaming, and you focus a little bit more on quality, and you take these, especially the ones with the big budgets, and put them in theaters, give them a real theatrical run, and I believe, and I think the numbers back me up, that it will perform better on your streaming service. But also, what do I know? I'm sitting in a spare bedroom making a YouTube video, and I'm not the CEO of Netflix. I just think all of this makes sense to me. But that's it. That's my rant. That's why I think the Netflix CEO is wrong. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. I would love to have a conversation with you about it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. You can follow me on social media, keep up with me outside of YouTube, pretty much anywhere, @CinemaSeth, and I'll see you next time.